Your body is quietly committing an act of self-destruction right now, not because something is wrong with you, because something is profoundly, elegantly right with you. Every single day, roughly 70,000 of your DNA strands break, snap, partially unfold. And the truly strange part, the part that kept a team of Harvard researchers staring at their data in near disbelief, is that your body already knows this. It has a repair system so ancient, so conserved across evolution, that it exists in yeast, in fruit flies, in deep sea organisms that haven't seen sunlight in 400 million years. And yet, most of us have spent our entire lives accidentally turning it off. The mechanism is called heat shock protein induction. And the way a Finnish sauna, a wooden box basically, hot rocks and steam, activates it at the molecular level, honestly, it should be in every medical school curriculum in this country. It isn't. But the NIH has noticed, Harvard has noticed, and in the last 5 years, the peer-reviewed literature on this has become genuinely stunning. Here's where it gets strange, though. The mystery. The thing I want you to hold in the back of your mind as we go through this. Why does heat, the very thing that causes protein damage, simultaneously trigger the most powerful protein repair cascade your body possesses? That's not intuitive. That's almost paradoxical. And the answer, when the biology finally reveals it, it changes how you think about stress itself. So let's start with the actual problem, because most people have a vague understanding that their DNA gets damaged. They've heard it from oncologists, from wellness podcasts, but almost nobody understands what that looks like inside a cell. Think of your DNA. Okay, think of it like the electrical wiring in a house. Miles and miles of it, incredibly intricate, running through every room. Now, your cells are running hot, 24/7. Metabolic fires burning constantly. And just like older wiring in a house will occasionally fray, spark, short circuit, your DNA sustains what biologists call strand breaks and misfolded protein aggregates every single day. The oxidative stress from just breathing oxygen, this beautiful necessary molecule, produces free radicals that nick and nick and nick at those strands. UV radiation, inflammation, the residue of normal cellular metabolism, it accumulates. Now your body has a standing repair crew. HSPs, heat shock proteins, are molecular chaperones. That word chaperone, it's actually the technical biological term, and I love it because it's exactly right. These proteins physically escort damaged, misfolded proteins. They grab them, they refold them into the correct three-dimensional structure, or they flag them for disposal. They are the cell's quality control department and its emergency maintenance crew simultaneously. But here's where it gets interesting. Under normal resting conditions, your body produces baseline levels of HSPs, enough to manage routine wear. The genes that encode them, HSF1, the heat shock factor, they're sitting there, present but quiet, waiting. It turns out they are waiting for a very specific signal, thermal stress. A 2021 study out of the University of Eastern Finland and NIH-funded research has replicated this, found that 2 20-minute sauna sessions at approximately 174 degrees Fahrenheit elevated circulating levels of HSP 70 and HSP 90 by over 49% within 30 minutes of exiting the heat. HSP 70, the protein that is arguably your most important DNA damage response protein, the one that prevents misfolded proteins from aggregating into the kinds of tangles we now associate with neurodegenerative diseases. Think about what that means. You are not preventing cellular stress by sitting in a sauna. You are imposing a controlled, acute thermal stress to trigger a repair response that dramatically exceeds what would have been activated otherwise. You are basically stress testing the electrical system in your house deliberately, so the maintenance crew shows up in full force, finds everything that needs fixing, and fixes it before a real emergency occurs. This is the ancient wisdom. The Finnish have been doing this for over 2,000 years. The Romans with their thermae, Mesoamerican temazcal rituals, traditional Korean jjimjilbang culture. Every major civilization, completely independently, converged on the same biological insight before they had any molecular biology to explain it. That should give us pause. That's not coincidence. That is pattern recognition across thousands of years of human observation. And now we have the mechanism. We know that HSF1, that quiet waiting gene, is activated when the cell detects thermal stress. It trimerizes, it moves into the cell nucleus, it binds to heat shock elements on the DNA strand, and it begins transcribing a cascade of repair proteins. It's a master switch, and it takes about 15 to 20 minutes of sustained heat exposure to flip it meaningfully. There's more. A landmark study from the University of Jyväskylä, published in Age and Aging, followed over 2,000 middle-aged Finnish men across 20 years. The men who used the sauna 4 to 7 times per week had a 66% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's-related dementia compared to once-a-week users. 66%. Now, and I want to be precise here because this matters, that's an observational study. Correlation, not proven causation. But when you layer that epidemiological data on top of the mechanistic HSP research, when you see that HSP70 specifically inhibits the aggregation of amyloid beta and tau proteins, the exact proteins that accumulate in Alzheimer's disease, the picture becomes coherent in a way that's difficult to dismiss. Just a note of common sense here. If you're managing cardiovascular conditions, or you're on blood pressure medications, or you're pregnant, please run any new heat exposure protocol by your physician first. Biology is highly individual, and sauna is a genuine cardiovascular stressor, especially in the first few minutes. That's not a caveat. That's just being intelligent about your body. So, what does this look like practically? What do you actually do with this? Tomorrow morning, or tomorrow evening, whichever fits your life, here's how I'd think about it. If you have access to a traditional Finnish-style dry sauna, you want a temperature somewhere between 165 and 185 degrees Fahrenheit. That range is where the thermal stress is sufficient to activate HSF1 without pushing into genuinely dangerous territory for a healthy adult. You go in for 15 to 20 minutes, not 10. The research suggests the HSP cascade really begins activating around that 12 to 15 minute mark of continuous heat exposure. You stay present, you breathe, you let the discomfort become information rather than alarm. When you exit, you cool down, fully. For at least 10 minutes. Cold shower, cool air, whatever you have access to. That cooling phase is not just comfort. The temperature differential appears to amplify the cellular signaling. Then you can do a second round if you feel good. 2 rounds of 15 to 20 minutes, 2 to 4 times per week. That is the approximate protocol that maps most closely to the positive outcomes in the literature. Hydration before and after. This is not optional. You are going to lose somewhere between a pint and a quart of fluid in a 20-minute session. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, they leave with the sweat. Replenish them. Coconut water, electrolyte minerals, or just water with a pinch of quality sea salt. Simple. Now, if you don't have access to a traditional sauna, infrared saunas operate at lower temperatures, typically 120 to 140 degrees, but the penetrating nature of near and mid-infrared wavelengths appears to generate sufficient core body temperature elevation to activate HSP pathways. The research base is thinner, but it's growing, and the mechanistic logic holds. And look, I want to zoom out for a second, because there's something philosophically important happening in this science that goes beyond saunas. We have spent decades in Western medicine treating stress as the enemy. Oxidative stress, thermal stress, physical stress. The entire supplement industry, the antioxidant industry, was built on the premise that we should neutralize all cellular stress as aggressively as possible. And what the heat shock protein research is telling us is that that premise is at least partially wrong. That certain forms of acute controlled stress are not damaging the system. They are training it. They are forcing it to upregulate its own native repair machinery in a way that chronic comfort simply does not. Your biology was shaped by a world of temperature fluctuation, physical exertion, periodic fasting, acute stress followed by recovery. The mismatch between that ancestral environment and the climate-controlled, that sedentary, always-fed modern American life may be, quietly, molecularly, one of the great unspoken sources of accelerated cellular aging. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. 1% better. Genuinely, 1%. 2 sauna sessions this week instead of 0. That is a measurable, scientifically meaningful intervention at the level of your DNA repair machinery. Not metaphorically, literally. The paradox we started with, why does heat, the thing that damages proteins, also repair them? It resolves here. because your body doesn't distinguish between a signal and a problem. It reads thermal stress as information, and it responds with repair that exceeds the damage every single time. That's hormesis. That's the fundamental logic of biological resilience. Your body already knows how to fix itself. You just have to stop accidentally preventing it. If this landed for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to keep going deeper into this kind of molecular level functional medicine, subscribe. We have a lot more ground to cover.